everyone, this is Surbi Sharma, Assistant Professor from Ramesh Institute of Vocational and Technical Education. Today in this video, we are going to learn about industrial pharmacy, that is BP 502T, and we are going to cover the topic of parental products, vehicles, additives and importance of isotonicity. Formulation of parental products. In the previous slides, in the previous lectures, we have learned about what is parental product. What is basically parental product, what are the different advantages, disadvantages, types, pre-formulation studies, all we have covered in the previous lectures. So in this lecture, we are going to go for formulation, how we are going to formulate parenteral products. In the formulation, there are lots of things we are going to add. Number one, therapeutic agents, means that have some therapeutic effect. Vehicles and additives. So we can learn it by therapeutic effect, vehicles and additives, TVA, okay. We can learn it by that. So therapeutic agents are the agents Therapeutic agents is defined as the agents that provide therapy. Obviously, therapeutic agents, if we are going to dissociate this word, we are providing therapy, the particular a certain kind of a disease. Vehicles are the carrier or medium we can use as a solvent that is being intended to be incorporated along with that therapeutic agent, or API we can say, active pharmaceutical ingredient, okay. Additives, these are the substances which are added in the formulation along with the therapeutic agent so as to impart the specific qualities of the formulation, okay. We are going to enlist various things, we are going to enlist various products in the additives. If you can see this table, you can see we have therapeutic agents, additive and vehicles, okay. There are lots of examples we can go for. What do you mean by therapeutic agent? Therapeutic agents are the agents that have some therapeutic effect to the body, okay. It means it has active pharmaceutical ingredients. Like for an example, you have a paracetamol tablet, as a basic example, paracetamol we can say, or ibuprofen tablet. The ibuprofen we are using or the paracetamol we are using, this is the API, active pharmaceutical ingredient, because from that only we are getting a therapeutic effect, okay. Additives are those agents that are used in the formulation in order to provide the stability of the formulation. How we are going to, as a vehicle we can say, these are the vehicle additives, buffer, antimicrobials, antioxidants, solubilizing agents, then we have surfactants, suspending agents, emulsifying agents, chelating agents and tonicity adjusting agent. All the agents have some there of the basic property that need to be taken care, okay. We are going to learn it one by one, what are the meaning of all these things, what is the role. Moving on, we have vehicles, water soluble vehicles, water miscible and non-aqueous vehicles we have, okay. So these are we are going to learn. Number one, let's talk about what is active pharmaceutical ingredient. Active pharmaceutical ingredient is an ingredient in a pharmaceutical drug that has biological active in order to treat a disease. We know that right now I told you, if we are having a tablet, in that tablet we have ibuprofen, we have a paracetamol, or any of the medication we have, any of the drug we have, that is considered as active pharmaceutical ingredient. Due to this active pharmaceutical ingredient, that drug is potent and that drug is being used to treat a disease, okay. Example, you can go for ibuprofen tablet and all these things, okay. So this is what your basic active pharmaceutical ingredient is. Next is vehicle, or we can call it as a solvent. What is a solvent? Means these active pharmaceutical ingredient or therapeutic agent need to be mixed up with vehicles, okay. The solvents suitable for sterile product are limited to those that produce little or no tissue irritation, which could be aqueous or non-aqueous. It can be divided into two, that is aqueous or non-aqueous solvents, okay. So vehicle is considered as a carrier or a medium used as a solvent in which the medicinally active agent is formulated and administered with the solvent. Means our therapeutic agent is mixed up with the vehicle, okay. And what are the vehicles? These are some solvents or the diluent we can say. It can be divided into two. Number one is aqueous, number two is non-aqueous solvents. What is aqueous, what is non-aqueous, we are going to learn. Aqueous is basically, it means it is related to water, means your particular entity, drug, when it is being soluble inside the water, we are going to use aqueous solvents, okay. When your drug is not soluble inside the water, we are going to use non-aqueous solvents. This is some basic and terminology that you can understand by the name also, okay. Aqua solvents are those in which the drugs are incorporated, and those drugs which are having a solubility, better solubility in aqueous media, and those which do not have better solubility in water, but they can be incorporated in some non-aqueous solvents. I will give you an example right now. You can see, first of all, let us talk about what is an aqueous solvent. Aqueous solvent, from the name suggests, it means it is related to water. Drug which is soluble in water comes under the category of aqueous solvent. Water is first of all most common as a solvent, okay. Since it is a vehicle for all natural body, whenever you are seeing water, water is basically ideal vehicle for all the natural body. So what we are going to use, we are going to compare it with the water. Obviously, aqueous solvents are those solvents which have basic entity and which has solubility in water. Water must be purified, pyrogen free and sterile free. Whatever water you are using in this particular profile, in order to formulate a particular parenteral product, it should be pyrogen free, it should be sterile enough, it should be purified. Okay. For them, we are going to use water for injection. You can see water for injection, sodium chlorides injection, bacteriostatic water for injection. All these things are basically sterile. These are pure, they are pyrogen free, and they are to be intended to be used as a aqueous solvents. Non-aqueous solvents. What are non-aqueous solvents? Basically, non-aqueous solvents are the solvents which some of the drugs are not soluble inside the water. For them, we need to obviously solubilize it, we need to obviously formulate our medication. For them, what we are going to use? We are going to use the non-aqueous solvents. Okay. Sometime it is necessary to eliminate water entirely. There can be a possibility when we want to eliminate the water entirely, or what we need, what we want to do, we want to just remove all the water, or some of the drugs are not feasible with water. Okay. So, for them, in order to enhance the solubility factors, some non-aqueous solvents are used. Hydrolytic reactions, so that the solvent used must be non-toxic, non-irritant and do not cause any sensitivity. Okay. This is what your particular non-aqueous solvent is. Example is ethylene alcohol, propylene glycol, almond oil. Okay, let me give you a big example. Okay, it's a good example. Dimer-caprol injection. Okay, this is not soluble in water basically. So, what other solvents we can use? What are the non-aqueous solvent you can go for is arachis oil. Okay. Another example is hydrocortisone, okay, which can be solubilized in 50% of alcohol. Another is digoxin. Digoxin is basically, it can be used along with the propylene glycol as a solvent. Okay. So, what is the basic entity? I told you we have aqueous and non-aqueous solvents. So, based upon the solubility profile, because if we are not having a proper solubility, that drug should not be intended to be used further. Okay. So, obviously, we need to have a better solubility. We have to find the alternative. If the drug is not soluble in water, we have to find the alternative. So, we find out the alternative, that is non-aqueous solvent. What are the examples? You can write for ethylene alcohol, propylene glycol, almond oil. Okay. Example is dimer-caprol injection, hydrocortisone and digoxin. You can see. Another is buffering agents. Buffering agents are basically, what is buffering agent? First of all, buffering agents are those agents that maintain the physiological pH, okay, of the particular, because I told you in the previous lectures that formulation, the parental products that we are making, that products need to be having a better pH. For example, the parental products that we are incorporating inside the body, it should have a same pH that is of blood. Okay, 7.2, 7.4, it should have same pH. Okay. So, for them, maintenance of the pH is very much necessary. For them, buffering agents are getting added. Example, citric acid, sodium citrate, acetic acid or sodium acetate. Next, we have chelating agents. Chelating agents are agents, it is used to remove all the trace elements that is the degeneration of ethylene diamine tetraacetate. Okay. EDTA is the best example of chelating agents. Okay. EDTA. First of all, when you are reading this kind of formulation of parenteral products, you need to have examples on your tips. The examples are very much important for your exam purpose. That is why you need to make sure that you are using it on the daily basis. Okay. Co-solvents. What does co-solvent do? Co-solvent means any of the helper. Okay. Gets adding the helper. Improve solubility. Obviously, it improves the solubility. Prevent potential for hydrolysis. Okay. Here you can see this is a structure of EDTA. This is a structure of EDTA. EDTA. Ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. This is a structure of EDTA, you can see over here. Okay, buffering agents, chelating agents and co-solvent. I hope you understand it. Let's move on. Suspending agents. I told you we have formulation. That formulation comprises of, it can be a solution also, it can be emulsion also, parental products, it can be a suspension also. If your product is solution, obviously there is no point of getting a solubility issue because we have aqueous and non-aqueous solvent for them, right? Whereas in case of emulsion, we have emulsifying agents. These emulsifying agents maintain the stability of a particular formulation. Example is lectin polysorbate 80. Okay, this is what your particular emulsifying agent is. Next we have suspension. Suspension, we have suspending agents. Some of the solutions that are suspension need to have suspending agents inside them. That suspending agents provide the stability of a particular formulation. Okay, example CMC, methyl cellulose, gelatin, sorbitol, all these things. Okay, so these are some kind of additives we are going to add inside. Tonicity adjusting agents. First of all, tonicity adjusting agents is very much important in a particular parenteral preparation. Number one point is the very most important point, you can say. Some of the patients are having pain during the injection, right? So tonicity adjusting agents, what it do, it reduces the pain. Okay, if we are having a proper tonicity inside while we are incorporating a needle inside our body, okay, so it is used for reducing the pain. Next we have buffer may act as a tonicity contributor as well as stabilizers for pH. It is used for stabilizing the pH. Isotonicity depends upon the permeability of living semi-permeable membrane. Examples glycerine, lactose mannitol, sodium chloride, sorbitol. All these examples need to be learned on the tips when you are reading this topic. What is tonicity adjusting agent? Before moving that, what is the need of adjusting tonicity? First of all, you need to have some clear concept because this is an important thing. Okay, so what is the need? Why we are going to give ample amount of effort on this tonicity? Isotonicity is important for parenteral preparation. Okay, why? Because the possibility that the product may penetrate into the RBC and cause hemolysis is greatly reduced if the solution is isotonic. Okay, if a solution is isotonic, okay, it cannot rupture or cannot swell the RBCs. Okay, how you can see it? Here you can diagram, you can see there is a diagram. If you can see over here, this is a hypertonic solution, isotonic and hypertonic. This is the RBC. If your solution is hypertonic, it means hypertonic. When your drug is having a better solubility, this is your RBC. Okay, this is your parenteral products. If your parenteral products is not isotonic to the blood, then it can cause either swelling of RBC or shrinkage of RBC. Okay, but what we want normal RBC. So that's why our preparation should be what? It should be isotonic to that of RBC. The product, the parenteral product that we are making, it should be isotonic to the blood. That's why I told you previously it should be 0.9% NaCl we can go for and have a same pH as that of blood. Because if there is not same pH when we are incorporating parenteral products inside our veins, it can cause rupturing of RBC or swelling of RBC that we don't want. Okay, that's why it is very much important that we are maintaining the tonicity. Let's read what's written over here. Isotonicity is important for parenteral products because the possibility that the product may penetrate RBC and cells cause hemolysis is greatly reduced if the solution is isotonic with blood and the cells maintain their tone. As I told you, if your parenteral product is not isotonic to your RBC, then the RBC can swell or can shrink. That we don't want. Okay, so that's why it is the need of adjusting the isotonicity. If it is getting hindering the RBC, obviously it can cause problem in the preparation. Solution that has less osmotic pressure than the blood plasma called as hypotonic, and the solution that has more osmotic pressure than the blood plasma is called as hypertonic. Okay, that's why it is a need. What I told you, we have hypertonic and hypotonic. Okay. What is the meaning of hypertonic? Hypertonic, as I told you, that solution that more osmotic pressure than blood plasma. Solution when have more osmotic pressure than blood plasma is called as hypertonic. It lead to shrinkage of RBC. Whereas if your solution is hypotonic, it means swelling. Okay, you can learn it by hypo. O means swell. Okay, so it is swelling. O means swell, it is swelling. Okay, we want an isotonic solution. Why? Because we don't want our parental product to get damaged and it can hinder the particular formulation. Okay, so that's why when introduce hypotonic solution, cell may swell and offers burst because of the diffusion of water into the cell. This is called as hemolysis. So that's why in order to prevent the hemolysis, we have to just make sure that our parental product should be isotonic to the RBC. This is what basic need of that particular profile is all about. Okay. Preservative. Preservative means the thing which preserves the particular formulation. As we are going to store our parental product, it's not like we are going to make it and use it. No, it need to be stored for ample amount of years also, for months also. So for them, so that all the microbial contamination should not be there, the product should not be degraded, for them preservatives are added. Okay. Preservatives used depends upon the type of vehicle used, and it may cause an antibacterial agent in the bacteriostatic concentration which included in the formulation of a product packed in multiple dose vials. Preservative, as I told you, is helpful for preserving the particular product for a long period of a time. Okay, you have also heard about the main component is methylparaben. Most of the people have heard it a lot of time. This is a preservative. What it is doing is basically preserving the particular segment, preserving the particular formulation from getting degraded. Another examples are benzyl alcohol, benzolium chloride, chlorobutol. All these formulations, all these preservatives we can use in order to save our formulation from any kind of antimicrobial infection. Okay, because obviously these are to be intended inside the body, and if when anything that is intended inside the body, it should be sterile, it should be pyrogen free, it should be antimicrobial free. Okay. Moving on, we have stabilizers. What is a stabilizer? Stabilizers, a basic example is EDTA. EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. Let's write ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. Okay, this is called as EDTA. What does EDTA do? EDTA serves as the same effect as antioxidant and as a chelating agent. What is chelation? Chelation is basically when you have any component, iron you can say, okay, in the body. If there is excess of iron, we are going to give a tablet called as Defracirox. That Defracirox, what does Defracirox do? Defracirox combined with that of iron entity, extra iron that is present inside the body, and that chelates out and excrete out from the particular GIT tract, excrete out from the body only. What does chelating agent do? Obviously, right now I told you, if you have a lots of iron content in your body, right? If you are having iron content and that iron content inside the body is excess from that the normal amount, what we are going to do? You are going to engulf any kind of a medication, example Defracirox. Okay, so Defracirox, what we are going to do, it's used in thalassemia example. Okay, so what does EDTA do? EDTA or any kind of chelating agent, what does it do? It basically chelates or combine with that particular excess of moiety and excrete out from the particular agent. So what does stabilizers do? Stabilizers example, EDTA serves as an effect as antioxidant and act as a chelating agent. Can be added to prevent the leaching of ferrous that is present in the amber vials and ampules. Okay. Example, dimethylene acetamide, ethyl alcohol, glycerine, thiourea ascorbic acid. These are the things that need to be incorporated, need to be learned when you are going to make the parenteral products. Surfactants. Surfactants are used to dispose of water soluble, insoluble drug as a colloidal dispersion. It is used for wetting powders. It is used to prevent the crystal growth in a suspension. Okay. Also, it provides the acceptability, syringeability for solubilizing steroid and fat soluble vitamins. Okay. This is what surfactant is used. Surfactant basically, in short form I can say, it provides better solubility. Okay. This is basically for solubility, steroids and fat soluble vitamins. Okay. This is what surfactant works for. There are lots of substances that have water insoluble moiety inside it, like we have water insoluble non-aqueous solvents, water insoluble drugs. For increasing the solubility, we are going to go for surfactants. That's why surfactant plays a major role. Okay. So coming on to the previous slide, let's revise what we have learnt. Basically what I told you is therapeutic agent, additives and vehicles. As I told you, what are the definitions and what are the examples. Okay, so you need to learn it on the tips and on the particular. Therapeutic agent are basically active pharmaceutical ingredients. Okay, buffers, abhi I told you what are buffers. Buffers are basically used for using the pH. Okay, when you want to maintain the pH of a particular formulation, we are going to go for buffers. Okay, antimicrobials, from the name suggests, it prevents the microbial contamination for a particular product. When you are having microbial contamination in a particular product, that need to be done. Antioxidants. Antioxidants, obviously it is not good for your formulation. Solubilizing agents, surfactants. Surfactants increase the solubility. Okay. Suspending agents or emulsifying. When you are working with a suspension, it works for suspending agents, and when you are working with the emulsifying agents, emulsions, so that the stability is enhanced, you are going for emulsifying agents, because as I told you, in the case of emulsions have oil phase and water phase. If your oil phase and water phase are degraded after you are getting incorporated inside the body, like for an example, you are preparing the formulation, and after that, after keeping it for a long period of a time, you can see that the oil phase and water phase are separated out. If they are separated, it cannot be incorporated very normally inside the systemic circulation. So, for them, emulsifying agents are getting added. Chelating agents, obviously I told you, if we have to incorporate, we have to expel out all those ferrous particles or any of the trace elements in our formulation, we can go for chelating agent. Example is EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid, tonicity adjusting agents. Okay, this is what all about. Tonicity adjusting agents are basically, I told you, it's just, so let's understand everything in brief. So there are three things that you have to keep in mind when we are reading this topic. Okay, number one, therapeutic agent. Okay, therapeutic agent is basically the API or active pharmaceutical ingredient. That active pharmaceutical ingredient is basically any kind of a formulation that we are going to use for. Okay, this is API. API, for an example, you can go for ibuprofen, aspirin, or any kind of paracetamol, Defrasirox, anything you can go for. Okay. Next we have vehicle. Vehicle can be aqueous and non-aqueous. Why we are choosing the aqueous phase? Aqueous is basically for those which the products that are soluble to the water. You can go for aqueous solvents, and non-aqueous are those agents that are not soluble. Like for an example, there are lots of drugs that are not soluble in aqueous solvents. For them, you can go for non-aqueous agents. Okay. Number 3, we have additives or excipients, we can say. Additives, lots of additives are there that I gave you example in the table only. So these things are need to be make sure when you are working upon it. Okay, this table you need to adjust. Yes. And the most important point is tonicity adjusting agents. These agents are those agents that adjust the particular reagents of the profile. Like for an example, you are having a drug, that drug need to be incorporated inside systemic circulation. So that need to be adjust same tonicity as that of RBC. Why? Because if there is a change in tonicity of the particular parental preparation, then it is if you are going to incorporate the parental product inside your systemic circulation, that parental product should be stable with that of RBC. It should not hinder the RBC. Why? Because if your parental product has a better or high osmolarity, okay, it can cause shrinkage. If it has a low osmolarity, it can cause swelling. Okay. If it is the RBC is swelled, it is called as hypotonic solution. If it is same, it is called as isotonic, and if it is shrinkage, it is called as hypertonic. Okay. These need to be adjusted very well. These are the things that need to be make sure when you are formulating a particular medications of parental products. It can be additives, it can be agents. Okay. These are the things that need to be required. So you have to learn this table very well, okay. Learn all the examples that is being incorporated inside this preparation of particular medications of parenteral products, okay. So we have therapeutic agents, additive, vehicles, buffers, antimicrobial, antioxidants, solubilizing agents, surfactant, suspending agents, emulsifying agents, chelating agents, tonicity adjusting agent. These all are important and these all have some basic rules. Buffers, as I told you, is used for pH adjustment. Antimicrobials is used for providing the prevention from microbial contamination. Antioxidants, these are used for prevention of oxidation of the particular formulation. Then we have solubilizing agent that solubilize, and we have stabilizers that provide the enhancement of solubility. We have suspending agents for suspensions, we have emulsifying agents for emulsions. As I told you, emulsion need to be taken care. Why? Because it is made up of oil and water phase. If the oil and water phase are separated out, then it means there is no use for providing that particular medication inside the formulation. When we have tonicity adjusting agent, tonicity plays a major role, because if you are not adjusting the particular tonicity, that is getting hindered, that is providing hindrance to your medication when it is being incorporated inside the human body or systemic circulation, okay. So this was all about the topic that you need to think about. Thank you so much. Next lecture will be on production procedure of parenteral products and facilities and controls, how we are going to go for aseptic processing. This is the next lecture. Thank you for listening.